I have rendered out my final images and we are ready to do some post-processing in Photoshop. Well, let's cover each one. Let's start with this colored perfume bottle. I'm just gonna open it in Photoshop, and the first thing I want to do is I want to slightly increase the contrast of the image. So I'm going to duplicate the layer with Ctrl J and try the curves adjustment tool. Right. I also want to add a very strong vignetting effect around the edges. So I'm going to go to my lens correction filter and throw on some vignetting. Alright, and finally let's duplicate the layer. I'm going to make it a bit more dramatic. I'm going to try and do that with this method. I'm going to change my upper layer to black and white. Okay, maybe like that. And try some blending modes for a nice dramatic effect. Okay, let's leave it at soft light, maybe reduce the opacity, and I think it looks nice. Okay, we are ready to save it as a PSD file and move on to the next image. Okay, let's take this teapot. I think it's almost ready. Okay, so first I'm going to try some curves adjustments just to brighten it a bit. And then maybe let's select the highlights. Copy them into a new layer and blur. Just to give it a little glow. Okay, well, let's blur a little bit and reduce the opacity. And duplicate the layer again and blur a bit more. So this makes 2 layers of glow on top of our original image. I'm going to try and set the second layer to overlay maybe. Okay, I think that looks nice. And this image looks pretty good, I think. No need for any further adjustments. So let's save it. And move on to the next one. Okay, let's open these both bottles. Alright, so for these bottles I want a chance to adjust my background separately from the bottle itself. I'm going to show you a quick trick how to do that. Well, let's open the scene with these bottles. And basically what I want to do is just select the bottle, the camera, and since there's no background here, okay, we actually don't need to delete anything, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a basic flat gravy material. Go to my render setup, and in the global switches I'm going to turn on the override material and use this flat gray material I just created. I'm also going to turn off the lights. And render. And as you can see, it renders very quickly, since it's basically a black image, but when you turn on the alpha channel, we have this nice mask ready to use in Photoshop. So let's wait for that to finish, and let's save the image as bottle mask. Too many F's at the end. That's enough for 2. Alright. And now when you go to Photoshop, you can open your bottle mask, select all, copy, I'll move back to your original render, duplicate the layer, add the layer mask, and you can actually go to channels, enable this mask channel, and paste in your layer mask. Right, now the upper layer is just the bottle itself, and the lower layer is the bottle with the background. So, for example, if I want to lighten up the background, I can do that easily. Absolutely no problems here. I think that's better. Maybe let's make it a bit warmer with some photo filters. Man, that's nice, I think. Now I'm gonna select the mask, create a new layer between these two, and let's fill it with basic white. Let's try to Gaussian blur it. Okay, first I'm gonna add the black layer below it so I can see the effect. Okay, duplicate and blur again, just to make the glow stronger. Alright. I think something like this looks okay. We can try to adjust the layer with the bottle with some curves. Maybe to lighten or darken it, whichever you like better. Might actually reduce some contrast. I think it looks alright. Let's save it. Well, let's reselect our mask, copy it again, and move to this black image here. Okay, the same process here. Just duplicate the layer, create a mask, and paste it into the mask channel. And I maybe want to make the background a bit lighter, like this. Maybe even add some sort of a gradient, like let's make the sides darker and blur it. And we can adjust our bottle layer. First thing I want to do is I want to bring out some of the highlights inside the bottle. So let's make sure we select our burn tool, dodge tool, set it to highlights, and set the exposure pretty low. Right, I'm gonna undo that. Since the white color is affected a bit too much. Okay, let's start with curves. Then let's duplicate the layer and let's turn it black and white. This is another way you can try to enhance some of the colors you want. For example, I want to enhance the yellows and the reds, so just bring those up in the black and white layer, sort of like this. And then when you try some different blending modes, you can see that yellow color is being brightened considerably. Okay, I'm gonna leave one layer like this. And I'm gonna add an hue saturation adjustment layer. Okay, sorry. Layer, new adjustment layer, hue saturation. And bring up that saturation. Okay, I think that's an interesting look. I'm gonna copy everything merged by using Shift-Control-C and then paste in place and try to run Shadows Highlights tool. Just wanna tune down the shadows a little bit. The highlights. Okay. And I think that's a pretty interesting final result. Let's save it as a Photoshop file. And we can close those. Alright, let's move on. What's next? Next we have this chair. Since it's on a gray background, we don't want to increase the contrast too much, as that will make the background white. So maybe let's boost the midtones a bit with curves. And maybe let's adjust the levels a little bit. And like this. Right, I'm going to duplicate the layer. Run through some blending modes to see maybe if something pops out as interesting. So this is quite nice, but it brightens the background a bit too much. And we can do the same trick here. We can open up the scene with the chair, hide the backdrop, and use an override material here. Turn off the lights, render, and it should render pretty quickly. So let's just wait for that to finish. In the meantime, we can perhaps go back to our original render and maybe burn some areas we want to accent. For example, this curve here, and maybe the seat. Okay, like that. Now you can save the mask. Invite Photoshop, load it up, copy, and let's duplicate the layer, create mask, and paste. Okay, good. And now we can duplicate the layer again and try the blending modes. Sorry. And now you can see the contrast increased on the chair itself, while the background is unaffected. You can actually make it even darker. Okay, maybe like that. That's a bit too much. So finally I'm gonna reduce the overlay amount. And I think the image looks quite good. So let's save it. Right. Next up is this chrome wheel. Just gonna open it. I'm just gonna crop out the lights. And one more thing I want to do with it is I want to select the highlights. So something like that. And copy them by pressing Ctrl J. And I want to make them brighter by dragging my level slider like this. Finally blur them. And change the blending type to, I think, overlay works here. Okay, just to make those highlights pop a bit more. I don't think we need to do anything else with this image. So let's save. Next up is our tractor renders. So let's open these two. Alright, so in this case I want to use the same trick with adjusting the background separately from the main part of the render, main subject of the render. So let's open the tractor. Okay. I'm gonna hide my background, ungroup the tractor, I'm ungrouping it because I want to render my windows with a separate material. I want to keep the material for the windows. For example, it's now something like this, sort of a half transparent plastic. I'm going to select everything with this material. And I'm going to freeze it. Now just select everything and assign a basic flat gravy material. Okay, like that. Now, if you have your plastic material set up so it affects shadows, and so the refraction affects shadows and affects alpha channel, it should render a bit more darker, a bit darker than white of the rest of the mask. So let's try it. I'm gonna turn off the lights and render. Okay, and once it starts rendering the final image, you can see that the window is not as white as the rest of the alpha. So that's a good thing in our case, because we can sort of see some of the background through the window. It would look weird if it would stay the same while we adjusted the rest. So if you have some transparent windows or glass or something like that, sometimes it's helpful to render it with a half transparent material. So this is warm and cold. And save the mask, open it up. And copy it. Okay, let's start with this one. Duplicate layer, add mask, and paste in the mask channel. Okay, that's good. And now we can try to adjust our background separately from the rest. So let's try some curves. And as you can see, I can make it quite a bit brighter without affecting the tractor itself. Okay, let's make it a bit more dramatic. And maybe let's take a black brush, create a new layer and run it over this lower part here. Also I'm gonna Gaussian blur it a bit. And move down like this. So that's fine. Another layer, I wanna sort of hide this ugly red reflection. It's a bit too strong. And let's blur this as well. Alright, let's merge down and reduce the opacity a bit. Okay, perfect. Now let's adjust the tractor itself. Let's start with the curves. Just boost the midtones a bit, and then I want to use my burn tool. Sort of adds a bit more contrast here. Okay, let's select everything, copy and paste. Copy, merge, then paste, and let's try the black and white tool. I want to make this image a bit more dramatic. Okay, maybe like this. And let's blend it. Just a little bit. Then I'm gonna copy, merge, and paste, and I'm gonna try running the auto contrast adjustment. I think it looks pretty nice. Let's save it. Let's copy the mask again and move to this next image. The same process again, paste the mask in the layer. And in this image I'm not quite happy about the background color. I'm going to increase the saturation and adjust the curves. Maybe like this. Okay. And then the tractor itself. Again, I'm going to run the curves adjustment. And brighten it quite a bit. Alright, I'm going to try and change the hue of my background layer to a bit more red-orange, something like this. Okay, let's copy this black from this first image and we can use it just the way it is right here. Just paste it between the layers and there you have a nice masking of the reflections. Right, let's try to add an adjustment filter. I'm gonna try the photo filter. And maybe warm the whole image up a bit. And I'm also going to use a layer mask here, sort of blend this effect, so it's not visible on the whole image, but only on one side, in this case the left one. Okay, that's nice. What next? Copy everything, merged, paste, and let's run the auto contrast. And I think it looks good. So let's save. And for this image I think I went a bit overboard with the contrast. I'm going to go and try shadows and highlights. Maybe at 1%, just to bring some of the darks back. And resave. Alright. So that's it for these tractors. Let's move on to the Tractor and spotlight. It looks quite good as it is, actually. So duplicate the layer and try some adjustments. So first, let's maybe make it a bit brighter with curves. Add a bit more contrast. Then add some photo filter layer. Maybe warm the image up a bit. Maybe try sepia. Okay, I think sepia looks good here. Let's duplicate layer again, move it on top, and try the black and white. Right. Overlay it with a hard light. It's nice. And hue saturation adjustment layer. And bring back the saturation. Okay. Just copy, merged, paste, and let's try auto contrast and see if anything changes. And there's no need for that. Alright, looks fine. Let's save it and move on. Okay, next up are these glass decanters. Let's open all three. And again, in this case, I want to use an alpha mask. And so I'm going to go to my glass on black file, hide the background, and change my material to regular V-Ray material. Right, turn off the lights and render. It's quite quick. Let's save it. And back to Photoshop. Okay. Let's load the mask. Copy it. And I want to use it in this image. So let's duplicate the layer, create the mask, and paste. Okay. I want to make the background pure white. And I think that's good. So what more can we do here? We can add a bit more contrast, maybe copy everything, blur a bit. And blend it as soft light or hard light, maybe soft light. I think with more contrast it actually looks worse. So I'm just gonna leave it as it is. Okay, let's save it. I'll copy the mask again and move to this image here. Okay, so let's duplicate the layer, add the mask, paste it, and we need to fix our background. What I want to do is I'm gonna try and select an area like this, copy it, paste it, and transform it to cover the whole render. Okay, right now you can see this weird noise going on here. It's because it's all stretched out. We can blur it with Gaussian blur to make it nice and smooth. Alright. Maybe let's select the decanter itself. Control click on the mask to make a selection. And create a new layer, and let's try to fill it with, not with white. Blur it slightly. Set the blending mode to overlay. And reduce the opacity. So the effect is very subtle. Okay, and let's add a new adjustment layer. Curves, and adjust the contrast a bit. Alright, let's save that image. And move on to the black render. I think it's pretty much fine as it is. Maybe let's try some curves. And just boost the contrast. And it's good. Alright, what's left? Now we have this lightbox render of the perfume bottle. And I think this is a nice example where you can use a basic white background. So for example, you wanna go to your levels, click on this white color picker tool, and pick a point somewhere. And this makes it quite white. Okay, maybe let's duplicate the layer. Adjust the curves a bit. And try some blending modes, maybe for more contrast. Soft light looks nice. And it's good to go. And finally, one last image, the shoe. Let's open it. Open the levels, press the Ctrl L, and increase the contrast. I think it looks nice. Maybe let's duplicate it and try some curves as well, just to brighten the midtones. Okay, and a nice clean render on white. I don't think there's any need to do anything more here. Alright, I hope you found these videos useful. And that's pretty much it for the studio lighting.